Hello everyone! In this week's video, I'm trying a new art challenge. For some reason, this week I did not feel like making art. I didn't have any ideas, my motivation was low, and I just wasn't feeling very creative. I was feeling very art blocky. In an attempt to find some inspiration, I started scrolling on social media and found that many artists were doing a challenge where you use colored noise and the liquefy tool to get random colors. This actually looked kind of fun, so I thought I'd give it a try. I'm going to make two pieces of art. For this first one, I'm kind of going to do the challenge my own way, and then for the second one, I will do it in the more traditional way like how I've seen other people do it. Also, I was a bit surprised to learn that there is a bit of technique for picking the color from the noise. I thought I could just hold the pen down, but then you end up with this and that doesn't really work. To get a color, you kind of have to do a combination of holding down the pen and moving it around in a kind of swirly motion. Oh, also, if you plan to do this in Clip Studio Paint like me, make sure that this has a check mark by it, or else the liquefy tool does this, and this definitely doesn't give you a color. Last thing, Clip Studio Paint doesn't have colored noise by default, so I got this from the asset library. And with all of that out of the way, we can now pick some colors. So for this first picture, I was going to randomly pick 4 colors, and then I have to make a piece inspired by those 4 colors. My first 2 colors were deep magenta and kind of a yellow ochre color. The next color was a rosy pink, and the last color was kind of a royal blue. These are definitely an interesting assortment of colors, but they do all kind of work together nicely. So let's see what I can do with these. Like I said, for this first attempt, I'm kind of doing things my own way. I'm going to limit myself to these 4 colors, but I'm also going to let myself use all of the colors between them. I can easily do this by using Clip Studio Paint's intermediate color palette. I can add 4 colors, and Clip Studio Paint gives me the colors when they mix together, so this will be the colors I limit myself to. The first kind of thing I thought of when I looked at these colors was royalty, and I think it's because of the royal blue color along with the kind of gold color. I went over to Pinterest and started looking at many different pictures that included crowns, and after doing that for a while, I decided on a concept. My idea is to draw a royal looking character, and she's putting on or adjusting the crown on her head, and she'll be dressed up in a ball gown. I decided to draw her with a kind of melancholy expression, like maybe she doesn't really feel like getting dressed up to attend whatever event it is that she's going to. After the rough sketch, it was time for cleanup. I knew the arm positions would give me some trouble for this one. I always find raised arms to be a bit tricky, especially when trying to make them look natural around the shoulder area. However, I knew I wouldn't need to worry about that too much since the hair will be blocking most of her shoulder area. Also, I did have a lot of references I was drawing from. I had some for the crown, for the dress, for the hair, for the pose. I knew that because I was feeling art blocky that I would need a lot of help with this one, so I made sure to get a good amount of references. It's kind of strange because for me, art block can take many forms. Like I said, this week I was struggling more with finding motivation. The idea of drawing just didn't sound very fun. I was going through my list of video ideas, which is a pretty long list, and I literally didn't want to do any of them. There's also kind of more to this, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. For now, let's talk a bit more about the sketch. For the arms, I had drawn one, and then to make sure that they were similar in proportion, I copied the one arm over, but then changed the hand pose and the pose of the arm a bit. Also, I was trying to not fuss about the elbow area too much because I knew I was planning to crop in on the sketch, so we probably wouldn't see all of the arms anyways. However, I did want to sketch out the arms entirely to make sure that they do connect properly. I didn't want the hands to look like not attached to the character in the final piece, so I made sure that they were attached. And for the crown design that I'll be drawing, you can basically totally ignore it. I found some different references and I didn't go with this design at all. It's not that I didn't like this one, but I kind of wanted the crown to feel more solid and maybe kind of heavy, whereas this design felt more light and airy. I wanted the crown to feel kind of burden-ish, if that makes sense. But I also wanted to make it kind of pretty and sparkly, so I'll also do that. I don't draw curly hair super often, but I do find it fun to draw. It can be a bit confusing, so I have to be making sure to pay close attention to how everything is flowing. Since this was my sketch, I was letting things be kind of loose and I'm kind of just trying to figure out the overall shapes. Many of you ask for tutorials on drawing curly hair, and maybe I'll try to do that sometime on my YouTube shorts or something. I've been trying to post small tutorials on shorts every once in a while. I find shorts to be a nice format for sharing tips or kind of random updates, and to also kind of show how I do things, since it can be hard to do a long form video on topics that don't really fill a long form video. So I usually move on to line art at this point. However, for some reason I felt like for this sketch I wanted to digitally paint it. It's been a while since I played around with my digital painting style of rendering, and I thought that maybe doing something different from my usual would be good for me and also be good for my bout of art block. Most of the time I will fill in all of the base colors at once, but this time around I kind of filled in an area and then did a bit of shading. I wasn't fully rendering, but getting a good idea for what I wanted. Later on I'll merge all my layers when I want to start refining things more. For digital painting, I find it easier to keep the layers separated until I get more of the base in place for the colors. And then once I feel like I've kind of gotten things established, I will merge to finish things off. My idea for the lighting situation of this picture is that she's being lit from behind and a bit to the left side of her. I plan to add in a window and background later in the process. Also, I'm allowing myself to use layer modes of the colors I have. I don't know if this is cheating, but I want to use multiply and add glow, that way I can achieve a higher range of values, because these colors don't really get super dark or super light. I mentioned earlier that there was a bit more to my art block, so I guess I'll talk about that. And I think it's kind of a combination of small things. I feel like I'm in one of those stages of art where your skills are growing, but because they are growing, you are seeing things you don't like in your art, or you just don't feel satisfied with it. I tend to go through one of these phases every so often, and it's usually when my eyes start to see things that I don't like that I'm doing wrong or that are kind of off, and therefore that means some growth is happening. But it's also really annoying seeing things you don't like and needing to adjust them all the time. So another break from the art block to talk about what I'm doing. I've been coloring the crown, which was fun since it's super shiny. For the gems, I did a thing I learned from TikTok where you use the selection tool and then make a bunch of random lines to make a sharp pattern, and then you fill that in with lighter and darker colors. Then to kind of give them some form, I added a light color to the face of the gems. My goal was to make them look really shiny and sparkly. I really liked working on the gems, it was fun. After the crown, I decided to get the background in place. I kept it pretty simple. I added in a curtain in the background and then drew in some lines for the window. This first set of lines fell off even as I tried to transform them, so I got rid of them and drew some new ones that seemed to fit in okay. Also, the curtain and window are kind of on different planes. In my head, the window has kind of a kitty corner wall coming off of it, and the curtains are draping down that, if that makes any sense. Once the background was done though, I merged all my character layers and proceeded to further render and clean things up. I am mostly doing this with the thin gouache brush. For some reason it is my brush of choice for digital painting, I just always really like it. Oh, and I know I said I was limiting myself to these colors over here, but I did start to let myself use the eyedropper tool to pick colors from my canvas. It's kind of just how my painting process works. I kind of tried doing it without using the eyedropper tool, but it was making the process feel very clunky since I like to select in between colors for my art for the blending things out. So yeah, I used the eyedropper tool to select colors from my canvas so that I could blend things. I think another reason I was feeling off is that I keep making videos that I'm pretty proud of and that I put a lot of work into, and they just keep kind of flopping. And I don't want to discredit the amount of views they've gotten, because if I stop to think about how many people watch those videos, it's crazy and I'm so thankful. But at the same time, whenever I have a bout of videos underperforming, YouTube analytics start to yell at me like, hey, this content isn't doing good, do better. And the channel overall starts to not perform as well. So it kind of gets punished. And I don't want to sound shallow or ungrateful. It's just when you put a lot of work into something and you're wanting it to do really well, it's always a bit disheartening when it doesn't. It starts to make you feel like the work you put into it was for nothing. However, I'm always reminded by all of you that it's not for nothing. You all encourage me so much, and I always get so happy when you tell me about how excited you are for a new video, or that my videos make your Saturdays even better. Knowing that there are people that enjoy my content behind all of these numbers that Google shoves in my face helps give me motivation. So thank you so much for watching my content and for the supportive comments. They truly helped me out a lot, and I'm so grateful. Also, even though I was feeling in a funk, this first drawing for this challenge did help pull me out of my funkiness. It was great to do some digital painting again and do something different. I also really like color challenges and trying to take inspiration from color palettes, so this was a lot of fun, and I got lucky that all the colors work really well together. I actually really like this color palette. It has a very nice warmth to it. Like I said, for this first drawing, I kind of let myself do the challenge my own way. However, for the second one, I'm going to do it how I usually see people do it. So you make a list of different parts of a picture, and then you randomly pick a color for each part. So as you can see, I made a list consisting of hair, eyes, skin, clothes 1 and 2, accessories, and other. I hadn't drawn the picture yet, so I wasn't sure what all I would need for colors. The hair and eyes, I got green and a reddish color. For the skin, I would see people use pixels with skin colors, so I applied a gradient map to the noise and made it have skin tones that way. For clothes 1 and 2, I got almost the exact same green as I did for the hair and a tealy blue color. For the accessories and other, I got a darker version of the tealy blue color and a darker version of the red color. I have a lot of colors, but a lot of them are very similar, so this will be interesting. Also, I want to make it known that I was trying to be very random with my movements so that I couldn't predict the colors at all. And also, I don't know if you can tell in the footage, but when I'm using the liquefy tool, the color will kind of change when I lift the pen because then Clip Studio Paint is able to like load in what I did. So I couldn't really predict what colors I was getting. It just kind of so happened I kept getting colors that were kind of similar. So when I saw these colors, I kept thinking jungle. The green made me think of foliage, the red made me think of flowers, and the teal made me think of water. I decided to draw a guy that is kind of surrounded by jungle plants and wanted his look to appear kind of intimidating or fierce. That sounds like a funny way to describe it. But I'm going to have his torso turn to the right and his head is turning towards us and tilting down. And I decided to draw him with a longer sleek hairstyle. I thought it'd help push the jungle vibes. My plan was also try drawing his facial features in a different way from my usual. I wanted to try to play around with the nose and eye shape a bit. It'll be kind of more apparent when I clean things up. Right now everything looks really messy. After sketching the character, I started sketching the plants. Since I do have the red color to work with, I searched for red flowers that seemed jungle-like. And I found flowers that looked like this. I tried to find the name of them, but all of the pictures I kept getting didn't have the name. It would just be titled Red Tropical Flower or something of that sort. So if you know the name of it, I'd love to know. Along with the flowers, I also sketched in some rough green plants. Oh, I forgot. I filmed the cleanup portion with my camera so that you could watch this part from a different point of view. I keep trying to include camera footage in my videos, but also keep forgetting to. For this cleanup, I was in one of those mindsets where I didn't know if this was just my cleanup before line art, or if this was going to be for the coloring. In the end, I decided to use it for coloring because it felt like it was clean enough to do so. That being said, I maybe should have spent more time refining the facial features. I didn't notice it for a while, but his eyes are kind of placed in a weird way, and some of the features just feel a bit off. I do eventually realize this towards the end, and I try adjusting things with the liquefy tool. So I guess I'll update you on some stuff since I'm not sure what to talk about for the art at the moment. Oh, did you notice that the intro was kind of different? I've been wanting to change it up a bit, but I wasn't totally sure how to. I kind of did some searching and I found a website called Canva, and it's actually really cool. I've heard people talk about it before, and I know some YouTubers that use it for making thumbnails, but it also has a lot of nice built-in animations and stuff, so I fiddled around with it for a bit and updated my intro. It still has very much the same concept, it's just the animations are a bit more fancy. I quite like it, but I may play around with it some more or tweak it. I also made some different pop-ups that appear throughout the video with it. Recently I've been thinking I want to play around with my editing style, but I'm not totally sure how to go about doing that. I have found a flow that works really well for me for the most part, but sometimes I wonder if I could edit things in a more interesting way. However, I don't mind the kind of more chill vibes of my videos. I try to walk you through the process at a good pace, but I also try to keep things moving so it doesn't get too boring, hopefully. As we talked about, for the colors of this picture this time, I was going to try to stay more true to the colors that were picked. and use them where they were assigned. With the first picture, I let myself work within a range of 4 colors. However, this time I'm using the specific colors that were picked. That being said, I did know it was going to be a bit tricky this time because there will be a lot of green, and not only in the foliage, but also the character. For the clothes, I had 2 options of green and the lighter teal, but I opted to only use the lighter teal, so there is some variety in the color. I guess I technically didn't pick the color for the foliage, but I'm just using the same greens I picked at the start and using those for the plants. I did also allow myself to use black and white since they are technically shades. I used white in his eyes for the sclera and black in the background. For the trees in the background, I used the darker red and lowered the opacity to get a tree bark kind of color. I did these super roughly since I knew they would be blurred out and not super visible, so I didn't bother to go into detail with the trees. For this picture, the lighting is coming from the right and a little to the front through the plants. I'm going to shade the picture normally and then add in some dappled light later. It was kind of funny because I almost forgot to add it in. I was like, wasn't I going to add something? Thankfully I remembered. I thought about also digital painting this picture since I really enjoyed the process for the first picture. However, I wasn't feeling totally up for it, so I decided to go with something more similar to my usual process. I find digital painting to be a bit more tiring for my arms sometimes because I do a lot of brush stroke movements and it's really repetitive, so it makes my arm kind of tired. I do a good amount of moving for my usual style too, but definitely not as much. Oh, and I know I said I will be using the specific colors this time, but like last time, I'm allowing layer modes like multiply and add glow once again because I want to be able to get a good amount of range in values. The values of these colors on their own don't get super light or super dark, so I had to try to push them a bit more with layer modes. If I would have had time, I would have done a third piece where I couldn't use layer modes, but maybe I can do that in a future video sometime. Now, I know I did say I was rendering this picture more in the way that I usually do. However, because I did work on the first picture, I was reminded about how much I like the thin gouache brush. So I did use it in a few spots for the rendering, mostly on the hair and also a bit on the skin. It was neat doing this challenge because the colors definitely did inspire very different pieces, but it also encouraged me to use different colors from what I would usually pick. So it made me work with different colors and experiment with them. I couldn't just rely on the colors that I usually pick for my highlights and shadows. That being said, I do feel like the values did suffer a bit with this piece. Even though I did use multiply and add glow, I feel like I wasn't able to push some of the values for variation between the character and the plants in some spots, and a lot of the hues get very similar. And for that reason, I don't totally love this picture, but the process was still enjoyable. And I do have to say, I feel like working on these pieces did kind of help me break through my art block feeling. Like I said, both of these were fun to work on and had different concepts, colors, and even workflows. It was a nice change of pace that I feel like I needed. Plus, I've been wanting to make more original art. When I go through the artwork I've made this year, a lot of it is fan art or art for other people's characters, and there isn't much of it that's just my own original art. So it was fun getting to make some more of it, and I hope to try to make some more original pieces in the near future. Oh, I did forget that I added a gradient map with some of the colors from the picture to help push the values a little bit more. I don't really know if this is cheating, but I went for it anyways. I also added in some rays of light and little particles to help things feel more snazzy. And here's the finished picture I made using the colors along with the other piece. I feel like out of these two pictures, I kind of prefer the first one. I'm actually pretty happy with how this one turned out. I do like the jungle picture as well, but I do really like the digital painting feel of the first one. But you can let me know which picture you like better in the comments. I hope you enjoyed watching the process for both of them. Before we end, I want to say a super big thank you to my awesome YouTube members and Patreon patrons for their support. It means so much to me. And thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!